kind of in a weird period right now in Canadian politics because they're getting closer to the summer break. And right now, currently, the House Commons is not in session. They've taken this week off, yet tensions are rising. And you're going to see the rise in tensions in this clip, in this video of Pierre Poilievre debating Justin Trudeau, going toe-to-toe, and Justin Trudeau actually losing his mind. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage everyone to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel, and I have a special message for today's sponsor.
This video is brought to you by Private Internet Access. We've teamed up together and are willing to offer my audience 83% off using the code House of Canada, which can be found linked down in the description or the pinned comment below. There's no easy way of putting this. Justin Trudeau is trying to censor the internet and he's trying to implement a digital ID. And the only way that you can actually really protect yourself online is through a VPN. And my go-to VPN is Private Internet Access. Now, those who don't know what a VPN is, it acts as a way to encrypt your data, which means that all the big tech companies, including the government, can't access your information. Your information bounces around from IP address to IP address, and it doesn't just act as a way to protect yourself, but it's also a way to access content which you wouldn't regularly be able to get because of geolocation restrictions, such as Netflix or Disney. I know a lot of people in Canada want to access the American stuff, and the only real way to do that is with a VPN. And it is so user-friendly with Private Internet Access. You can have it on your phone, your tablet, all of your devices, your computers, etc. Just be sure to use House of Canada as your code, which should be linked down in the description or the pinned comment below to get yourself 83% off with Private Internet Access. Thank you, Private Internet Access, for sponsoring today's video.
Oral questions.
Oral questions. Questions. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, soon to be next Prime Minister Canada.
Le Conseil municipal.
The Mayor and City Council of Montreal have requested legalization of hard drugs in their communities. Will the Prime Minister openly acknowledge the deadly mistake that legalizing hard drugs was in BC, or is he going to try to repeat this problem in Montreal? The Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, BC requested a pilot project and we worked with them. We agreed to amend the deal with them to better meet their needs. And we will always be there to work respectfully and with respect for science with our partners. But we weren't going to go ahead with any project without the support of the provinces involved. And the Leader of the Opposition knows that full well. But he keeps on his ideological path, like Stephen Harper, even though that was rejected as immoral and obsolete. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Minister believe in the decriminalization of crack in children's parks, meth smoking in hospitals, or other hard drugs on public transit? Yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, we believe in working with British Columbia and with any province that wants us to work with them on this, which is why we accepted their request to modify their pilot project on exactly those issues. This is something we will continue to do, to work in a basis of science around compassion and a medical approach, a health approach, not a criminal justice approach to dealing with the toxic drug supply and addictions. At the same time, Mr.
Almost
Speaker,
sounded
we will
like he was
be
making
taking lessons from the
Christians.
Conservatives that continue to chase after a Harper-era policy that their own advisors said was obsolete.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It's an important question, Mr. Speaker, because we need to know what he's going to do next. I just gave him a chance to indicate whether he believes people should be allowed to smoke crack in children's soccer fields or meth in the faces of nurses in hospital rooms. He refused to answer, which begs the question of whether or not he will try to impose the same radical and extremist policy elsewhere. So once again, does he believe that people should be allowed to smoke meth or crack in children's soccer fields.
Man, Trudeau's freaking crazy for allowing this to happen.
Obviously, no one in this House does. That is why we agreed with the British Columbia government to modify their pilot project to better suit their concerns. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, we've seen the extent to which the Leader of the Opposition will continue to try and use tragedies and ongoing challenges Canadians and vulnerable people are facing to try and score political points. It's the same reason he's said that he will suspend people's fundamental rights and freedoms to score cheap political points. That is not something that Canadians want to see, Mr. Speaker.
He's lost his mind, man. Trudeau scores the most cheap political points.
Speaker, the Prime Minister legalized the use of hard drugs like meth, crack, and heroin in children's parks and in hospitals, and he won't rule out doing it again. This is not an academic question. The City of Toronto submitted a 153-page application, and I quote, seeking an exemption under Section 56.1 of the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act that would decriminalize personal possession of illicit substances within Toronto's boundaries. The Prime Minister's government has been working secretly with Toronto on that plan ever since. Will he, yes or no, rule out decriminalization in Canada's biggest city?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, we see the Leader of the Opposition trying to score cheap political points on the backs of vulnerable people to promote an ideology that does not work. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to be there with a thoughtful, compassionate-based public health approach on the toxic drug supply, and that means working with jurisdictions. When Vancouver asked us for an exemption, we said no. We would only work with the province, and that's what we did to work with BC. The same thing when it comes to Ontario or Quebec. We will only work with the provinces to ensure any projects they have go.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So he refuses to rule out repeating this disastrous experiment that killed 2,500 British Columbians. Because he strongly supports decriminalization, and if he got a chance, he would do it all over again in Toronto, in Montreal, and anywhere else. Mr. Speaker, the final question, therefore, is even the radical NDP government in BC asked for him to reverse his decriminalization. Why did it take him 10 days and 66 more deaths to do it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Way to go, Pierre.
Mr. Speaker, we see the extent to which the Leader of the Opposition will make political attacks on the backs of the most vulnerable people in this country. We actually only received the completed request from British Columbia Friday last week and approved it the following Monday, 3 days later, Mr. Speaker. We will always respond quickly in a science-based way when people's lives are on the line. The Leader of the Opposition is continuing to spread falsehoods, Mr. Speaker, instead of actually following the facts and caring for Canadians.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years, the Prime Minister and the Bloc aren't worth it. The more the government spends, backed by the Bloc, the more Quebecers struggle. The housing crisis will soon force Canadians to live, through no fault of their own, in their minivans as a last resort, not as their retirement dream. Mr. Speaker, when will this Prime Minister, backed by the Bloc, with $500 billion in budget appropriations, when will they stop wasting money so Quebecers can once again live with dignity under the roof of a house, not of their minivans?
Yeah, dude, lived in a van for 4 years.
Again, I'd like to encourage all members to remain silent when a member is asking a question, and obviously when the answer is given. The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, Canadians will not be lectured by the Conservatives and their support for extremist groups in Canada. Canadians know they're a party with no vision, no ambition, and no plan either for this country. Here on this side of the House, we know that we need to help families, we need to invest in housing, but you know what? people are seeing that members opposite have voted against support for children, for housing, and for investments in Quebec. It's shameful. Here on this side, we will always fight to improve Canadians' quality of living.
L'honorable député de...
The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government hasn't built any housing. They've just built more bureaucracy. With $500 billion in centralizing and inflationary spending that created this cost of living crisis and the housing crisis we're currently in. Mr. Speaker, with thousands of Canadians in dire straits, will the Prime Minister see to it that housing is built quickly? When you're at the point where you're sleeping in your van or your car, it's because this Prime Minister is asleep on the job!
L'honorable...
Oh my God!
Minister of
Drop
National
some
Revenue.
W's in the
Thank you,
chat.
Mr.
That was the
Speaker.
best
Well,
thing I've
my
ever seen
colleague
since sliced bread.
practices his performance for Infoman. We are doing what needs doing. With the fund
shit,
to
that was
help
awesome.
young people save up for their first down payment. 650,000 young people have signed up for that, and they have saved $2.6 billion that way. Member for Beauce.
Oh my God.
That's where we're going to end the video, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this clip as much as I did. Once again, on your way out, I would like to encourage you guys to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.